There is a quiet terror that lives in the back of the minds of millions of people. They don't speak of it. They wake up, they go about their day, they laugh with friends and tend to their families. But deep down, in the silence just before sleep, there is a question they dare not ask aloud. It is the fear of reaching the end of the road and finding nothing there. Imagine a man who has walked for 50 years. 50 years, through sun and rain, through the bright mornings and the heavy evenings. He walks because he believes that at the end of the path, there is a destination, a place of rest, a reward for the journey. But one day, he looks up, and the path simply ends. There is no destination. There is no reward. There is only the long road behind him, and the sudden, horrifying realization that the walking itself was all there ever was. Most people spend their entire lives walking. They move. They work, they contribute, they endure, and yet, when the sun begins to set on their years, they find their hands are empty. The account is empty, the spirit is weary, and the future, which was supposed to be a time of peace, becomes a time of quiet, grinding anxiety. This is not a story about money. It is not a story about retirement accounts or stock markets. It is a story about a law, a principle so powerful and so invisible to the average eye that it determines the entire course of a human life. And most people never notice it. They never notice the one single mistake that turns a lifetime of labor into a lifetime of loss. Let us sit quietly together for a moment and consider the nature of work. Not the kind of work we rush to each morning with a heavy heart, but work itself, the pure, original meaning of it. Work is honorable. It is the expression of life itself. The bird builds its nest without complaint, gathering twigs and moss, shaping something secure for the young it will never meet. The bee builds its hive, each hexagonal cell a small miracle of geometry and instinct. And a human being, when they are healthy, when they are whole, desires to build, to create, to contribute something of value to the world around them. This is good. This is natural. It is what we were made for. But there is a difference between working and being worked. Most people, from the time they are young and impressionable, are taught to trade their time for money. It is the most basic bargain in the world, the first economic lesson we learn. You go to a place, you perform a set of tasks for a set number of hours, and at the end of the week, you receive a paycheck. This is called a job. And for millions upon millions of souls across this earth, it is the entire model of survival. It is the framework upon which they build their entire existence. On the surface, it seems fair. It seems stable. It seems like the responsible way to live, the adult way, the way our parents lived and their parents before them. There is a certain comfort in knowing exactly what Friday will bring. There is a certain peace in the predictability of it all. But there is a hidden flaw in this bargain, a flaw so subtle, so deeply woven into the fabric of modern life, that it is rarely examined, rarely questioned, rarely even noticed. It is like the air we breathe, always there, essential to survival, but invisible to the eye. The flaw is this: when you trade your time for money, you are trading a non-renewable resource for a renewable one. Think about that for a moment. Let it settle. Time is the only thing you truly own. It is not given to you by a company. It is not granted by government. It is the raw material of your existence, the currency of your life. Every morning you wake up with a certain number of hours in your account, and you will never, ever get them back. Not one of them. You spend them, you invest them, or you waste them. But once they are gone forever, carried away on a river that flows only one direction. Money, on the other hand, can be earned again. It can be found. It can be created. It flows in and out of our lives like water, like the tide, here today and gone tomorrow, but always with the possibility of returning. Money is a servant, a tool, a medium of exchange. But time is life itself. So consider the person who spends 40 years, the better part of a lifetime, trading their irreplaceable hours for replaceable dollars. They arrive young and full of energy, with dreams still flickering behind their eyes. And they spend their youth, their vitality, their health, their brightest ideas, their most creative years, all in exchange for just enough money to pay for the life they are currently living. The rent, the groceries, the car payment, the modest vacations, the endless cycle of bills that arrive with the regularity of the seasons. They are on a treadmill. It feels like forward movement. It feels like progress. They are moving, sweating, working, advancing through the years. But they are going nowhere. They are earning their survival day by day, week by week, year by year. But they are not building anything that will survive without them. When they step off that treadmill, and eventually everyone must step off, the treadmill keeps moving, and they are left standing still, often dizzy, often disoriented, often wondering where the years went. This is the hidden problem. It is not laziness. It is not a lack of intelligence. It is not a failure of character. It is a lack of awareness. It is the trap of mistaking activity for achievement, of mistaking a busy schedule for a meaningful life, of mistaking a paycheck for progress. Most people work their whole lives for someone else's dream. They pour their energy, their focus, their loyalty into building a business, a practice, a system that belongs to another person. They become indispensable cogs in a machine that they do not own. They take pride in being the best cog they can be. They are praised for it. They are rewarded for it. And when they are too tired to turn anymore, when the years have finally caught up with them, the machine simply finds another cog. It does not stop. It does not mourn. It does not send thank you notes. It finds another cog, and the work continues, and the former cog is left to wonder what exactly they have to show for all those years. The work was real. The effort was real. The exhaustion was real. The sacrifices were real. But at the end, there is nothing to show for it but a history of wages spent and a future with no momentum of its own. No engine running in their absence. No stream flowing from a source they built. Just memories of a life spent in service to something that was never truly theirs. And this, dear friend, is the quiet tragedy that unfolds in millions of lives, in neighborhoods all around you, in families, in friendships, in the silent moments before sleep when the mind wanders and wonders. Was that all there was? Was that the whole of it? If the hidden problem is this bargain of time for money, then we must ask ourselves a deeper question. A question that cuts to the very heart of human behavior. Why do so many brilliant, capable, good people remain in this bargain for their entire lives? Why does a person wake up each morning for 40, 50 years, walk the same path, perform the same tasks, collect the same paycheck, and only at the end, when the light is fading, look back and feel that chill, that sudden, creeping cold that comes when they realize the cupboard is bare and the fire has gone out? The answer lies in the mind. It always does. It lies in a trap so cunning, so well disguised, that most people never even know they are caught in it. Napoleon Hill, in his years of studying the most successful people of his era, men like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, identified this trap as the single greatest obstacle to human achievement. He gave it a name. He called it the fear of poverty. But do not let the simplicity of that phrase fool you. This is not merely a fear of being broke. It is not just a worry about having enough to pay the bills. The fear of poverty, as Hill observed it, is a state of mind. It is a deeply ingrained habit of thinking that keeps a person small, keeps them safe, keeps them from ever venturing beyond the walls of what is known and comfortable. It is the voice that whispers, "Don't risk what you have for what you might never get." This trap is the belief in scarcity, the quiet, often unspoken conviction that there is only so much to go around, that opportunities are limited, that success for one person means failure for another, that the pie is only so big, and if you reach for a larger slice, you might end up with nothing at all. This belief colors everything. It shapes decisions. It limits dreams. It turns bold souls into cautious ones. And from this belief springs another, the belief that security is found in a guaranteed paycheck. No matter how small, no matter how suffocating, that paycheck becomes a lifeline, a security blanket, proof that you have not fallen, that you are still safe within the walls. The size of the paycheck matters less than its predictability. The wage itself matters less than the certainty that it will be there next week, next month, next year. From a young age, We are conditioned to seek this kind of safety. Think back to your own childhood. What were you told? What did the adults around you emphasize? Get a good, steady job. Find something with a pension, with benefits, with security. Do not take risks. Do not rock the boat. Save a little from each paycheck, put it away for a rainy day, and be grateful for what you have. Be grateful you have a roof. Be grateful you have food. Be grateful you are not one of the unfortunate ones. On the surface, this sounds like wisdom. It sounds like prudence. It sounds like the voice of experience, of parents who lived through hard times and want to protect you from repeating their struggles. It is well-meaning. It is often loving. But listen carefully to this part, because this is where everything changes. This advice, this seemingly wise advice that has been passed down through generations, is rooted in a deep and paralyzing fear. It is rooted in the assumption that you are not capable of creating your own abundance. It assumes that you must attach yourself to an existing structure, like a vine attaching itself to a wall, because on your own, you would surely fall. Do you see the implication there? The vine cannot stand alone. It has no spine, no strength of its own. It must cling. It must attach. It must depend on something else for its height, for its survival, for its very place in the sun. And this is the image that is planted in the young mind, that you are a vine, not a tree, that you need something larger than yourself to hold you up. That independence is dangerous, and dependence is safety. The mental trap, then, is this: people trade their potential for the illusion of security. They exchange what they might become for the comfort of what they already are. They feel a sense of peace when they know exactly how much money will appear in their account on Friday afternoon. They feel safe within the boundaries of their job description, never stepping outside, never offering more than is asked, never risking the disapproval of those above them. They feel protected by the size of the company they work for, by its reputation, by its history, by its apparent permanence. But they do not realize that this comfort is a cage. They do not realize that this security is an illusion, because the company, the economy, the industry, these things can change overnight. They can be swept away by forces no one predicted. The wall that the vine clings to can crumble without warning. And when it does, the vine has no roots of its own. It has spent its entire life clinging, rather than growing. It has nothing to hold it up when the wall is gone. This is the tragedy of the average life. It is not a life of laziness. It is not a life of evil or malice. It is a life lived in a state of mental sleep. A life where the most powerful creative engine in the universe, the human mind, with its infinite capacity to imagine, to solve, to build, is rented out, day after day, week after week, for a price that barely covers the cost of living. It is a life where the greatest gift you possess is leased to another, and the rent is just enough to keep you coming back for more. The person caught in this trap spends their days doing what they are told. They follow instructions. They meet expectations. They stay within the lines. And in doing so, they never exercise the muscle of independent thought. They never ask the questions that could set them free. Never ask, what could I build if I had to? Never ask, what problem do I see that I alone could solve? Never realize that the very act of building something for oneself, something that serves others, something that creates value where none existed before, is the only true path to security. They are so afraid of falling that they never learn to stand. They are so afraid of failing that they never try to succeed on their own terms. And so they remain, year after year, trading their irreplaceable hours for replaceable dollars, until one day they look back and wonder where it all went. The wall is still there, perhaps, but they have become so weak from clinging that they could not stand without it, even if they wanted to. Now we arrive at the turning point, the moment where the fog begins to clear, where the shape of things emerges from a mist, and where a different way of seeing becomes possible. Breathe deeply here, for what follows is not merely information. It is a key, and like any key, its value lies not in its appearance, but in what it can unlock. Napoleon Hill spent over 20 years of his life walking a singular path. At the behest of Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men who ever lived, Hill sat at the feet of the most successful self-made men and women of the early 20th century. He interviewed over 500 of them. He studied their habits, their failures, their triumphs, their ways of thinking. He wanted to find the common thread, the secret formula that turned ordinary people with no special advantages, no inherited wealth, no unusual luck, into giants of industry and influence. And what he found, after 2 decades of searching, was not a secret at all. It was not hidden in any vault. It was not whispered in any lodge. It was a law as reliable as gravity, as consistent as the tides. A law that operates whether you believe in it or not, whether you understand it or not, whether you use it or not. He called it definiteness of purpose. But do not let the simple phrase fool you. Do not let it glide past your ears like so many words you have heard before. This is not just about setting goals. This is not about writing down what you want for Christmas or making a list of resolutions you will forget by February. Definiteness of purpose, as Hill described it, is something far more powerful. It is the act of taking control of your own mind, that wandering, easily distracted instrument, and fixing it upon a single, burning objective. Not a vague wish, not a casual preference, a burning objective, an aim so clear, so compelling, that it colors everything you see and shapes everything you do. Most people drift through life. Have you noticed this? They do not choose their direction. They react. They respond. They are like a boat without a rudder, pushed this way and that by the currents of opinion, the winds of circumstance, and the unpredictable tides of the economy. One year they go this way because a job opportunity appears. The next year they go that way because the job disappears. They follow fashions. They follow advice. They follow the crowd. They go where they are pushed. They end up where the current takes them. And then, when they find themselves stranded in waters they never intended to sail, they wonder why. They wonder how they got there. They wonder where the years went. The person with a definite purpose, on the other hand, has a rudder. They have a compass. They may not know every twist and turn of the river. They may encounter rapids they did not expect. They may face storms that test their resolve. But they know which direction the ocean lies. They know, in the depths of their being, where they are headed. And because of that knowledge, every decision, every action, every ounce of energy they expend is aligned with that direction. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. Every choice either moves them toward their purpose or away from it, and they can tell the difference. Now, here's the part that directly addresses our topic. The part that explains why so many people work until 65 and end up with nothing. Listen closely, for this is the heart of it. The reason most people reach the end of their working years with empty hands is because their purpose, for their entire lives, has been someone else's purpose. Their definiteness has been applied to their job. They have been definite about being a good employee. They have been definite about showing up on time, about following instructions, about meeting their quotas, about pleasing their superiors. They have poured their focus and their energy into being the best cog they could possibly be. And they have succeeded at it. They have been praised for it. They have been rewarded with small raises and modest promotions. They have been told they are valuable, they are appreciated, they are part of the family. But they have never been definite about building their own vessel. Do you see the difference? The employee applies definiteness to someone else's dream. The builder applies definiteness to their own. The employee focuses on doing the job well. The builder focuses on creating something that will outlast any single job. The employee asks, "What does my boss need from me today?" The builder asks, "What does my future require from me today?" Hill's principle requires you to ask a terrifying question, a question that many people spend their entire lives avoiding. The question is this: what do I want? Not what does my boss want? Not what does my family expect? Not what is safe, what is sensible, what is socially acceptable? What do I want to bring into this world before I leave it? What do I want to build? What problem do I want to solve? What mark do I want to leave? Most people cannot answer this question. They have never been asked. They have never asked themselves. They have been so busy fulfilling the purposes of others that their own purpose has remained buried, unexamined, unborn. When you answer that question honestly, when you dig deep and pull it out into the light, something begins to shift. Something fundamental changes in the architecture of your mind. You stop seeing your job as your source of security, and you start seeing it as a temporary platform, a place to stand while you gather what you need, a place to learn, to practice, to save, to prepare. You stop working just for the paycheck, and you start working to acquire skills, to build relationships, to gather resources, to develop the mindset you will need for your own journey. The person who discovers definiteness of purpose realizes something profound. They realize that their greatest asset is not their job. It is not their retirement plan. It is not the goodwill of their employer. It is their own mind, trained, focused, and fixed upon a single, burning desire. And that asset, unlike any other, cannot be taken from them. It cannot be downsized. It cannot be outsourced. It goes with them wherever they go, and it grows stronger with use. This is the turning point. This is where the average life becomes extraordinary. Not because of luck, not because of inheritance, but because of a decision. A decision to stop drifting and start steering. A decision to stop living someone else's purpose and discover your own. A decision that, once made, changes everything that follows. So we arrive at a question that deserves careful consideration. How does the mind of a great achiever differ from the mind of the average person? What is happening inside them that is not happening inside the millions who work just as hard but end up with so much less? It is tempting to believe that they are simply smarter, that they were born with some advantage the rest of us lack, that luck smiled upon them while passing over others. But this is not what Napoleon Hill found in his decades of study. Again and again, he observed that the most successful people were not necessarily the most intelligent. They were not the most educated. They were not the most fortunate. What set them apart was something else entirely. It was a fundamental shift in their relationship with work and with value. Let me say that again, because it is worth repeating. They had a different relationship with work and with value. The average person sees their labor as something to be sold. They wake up, they go to their place of employment, they perform the tasks that are asked of them, and at the end of the week, they receive a price for that labor. It is a transaction. Clean, simple, predictable. They sell their time, their energy, their focus, and in return they receive money. This is the model that most of humanity has accepted as normal. The great achiever, on the other hand, sees their labor as something to be invested. Not sold, invested. And this one difference in perspective changes everything that follows. When you sell your labor, you receive a price. That price is determined by the market, by your employer, by forces largely outside your control. You take that price, you pay your bills, and at the end of the week, your labor is gone. Consumed. You have nothing left but the memory of the work and the money that has already been spent. When you invest your labor, you build an asset. Something remains after the work is done. Something that continues to produce value, continues to work for you, continues to grow even when you are not actively engaged in the effort. Consider the farmer. This is an image that has helped humanity understand deep truths for thousands of years. The farmer stands in his barn at the end of the harvest season. Before him is a pile of seed corn. It is food. He could eat it. He could grind it into meal and fill his belly for many days. It would satisfy his hunger, quiet his stomach, give him comfort in the moment. But the farmer understands something that the average person often forgets. He understands the law of the harvest. He knows that if he eats all the seed corn now, there will be nothing to plant in the spring. There will be no crop next year. There will be no future harvest. So instead of consuming everything, he sets aside a portion. He protects it. He stores it carefully. And when the time is right, he goes out into his fields and he plants those seeds in the good soil. He tends them. He waters them. He protects them from pests and from drought. And in due season, that one seed he planted becomes a stalk with hundreds of seeds. He invested his labor and his restraint in the present, and it multiplied into abundance in the future. The person who works a job for 40 years is eating the seed corn every single week. Do you see it? They take the full value of their labor in cash, and they spend it on the needs of the moment. The rent, the groceries, the car payment, the small luxuries that make the week bearable. There is no planting. There is no seed set aside. There is no harvest waiting in the future. There is only the endless, exhausting cycle of working and consuming, until one day the body can no longer work and there is nothing left to consume. The great achiever thinks differently. They look at their job, or their business, or their idea, and they ask a different set of questions. They do not merely ask, how much will I be paid for this hour? They ask, how can I turn this effort into something that will outlast the effort? How can I build a machine that works even when I am not working? How can I create value that continues to flow long after my hands have stopped moving? This was the thinking of Henry Ford. He did not just want to build cars. He wanted to build a system that could build cars endlessly, efficiently, affordably. He wanted to create something that would keep producing value whether he was in the factory or at home sleeping. This was the thinking of Thomas Edison. He did not just want to invent a light bulb. He wanted to create an entire system of electrical generation and distribution that would light up the world for generations after he was gone. This was the thinking of the titans Napoleon Hill studied. They were not satisfied with a wage. They wanted to build vessels that would sail on long after they had left the shore. For the person living in the modern world, this principle translates into a simple but powerful shift. It is not about quitting your job tomorrow. It is not about taking foolish risks. It is about awareness. It is about intention. It means that a portion of your energy, every single day, must go toward building something of your own. Something that does not belong to your employer. Something that cannot be taken away when the economy shifts or the company restructures. What might that something be? It might be a skill so rare, so valuable, so difficult to replicate that people seek you out specifically for what you alone can offer. It might be a small business you start on the weekends, serving a few customers, learning the ropes, building something from the ground up. It might be knowledge that you package into a book, a course, a series of writings that can help others and generate income while you sleep. It might be a network of relationships based on mutual value, people who know you, trust you, and will think of you when opportunities arise. The point is this: you must stop being just a consumer of wages and become a creator of capital. And capital, in its deepest sense, is not just money. Money is only one form of capital. True capital is anything that produces value without your direct, hourly involvement. It is your reputation, the trust and respect you have built over years of honest dealing. It is your intellectual property, the ideas, the methods, the insights that are uniquely yours. It is your list of clients who know you, who have benefited from you, who would seek you out wherever you go. It is your ability to solve a problem that no one else can solve, to solve it in a way that no one else can match. The great achiever guards their time jealously. This is not because they are lazy. It is not because they are selfish. It is because they know, with a certainty that most people lack, that time is the raw material from which their independent future will be built. Every hour given to someone else's purpose is an hour not spent on their own. Every moment traded for a wage is a moment not invested in an asset. They are not against working for others. They do it themselves, often for many years. But they refuse to trade all of their time for a wage. They insist, with quiet determination, on keeping a portion back. A portion to plant, a portion to invest, a portion to grow. And over time, that portion becomes something substantial. That seed they planted years ago, in the margins of their busy life, grows into a tree. That tree bears fruit. That fruit provides shade, provides nourishment, provides security. And one day, they look around and realize that the tree has grown large enough to support them. They are no longer dependent on selling their time. They are living from the harvest of what they built. This is how great achievers think differently. Not because they are born different, but because they made a choice, long ago, to stop eating all the seed corn, to stop consuming all their time, to invest a portion in a future that would one day become their present. And that choice, repeated daily for years, made all the difference. And so, after walking through these ideas together, after examining the hidden problem and the mental trap and the principle that changes everything and the way great achievers think, we arrive at last at the quiet awakening. The moment of clarity that can come to anyone, at any age, in any circumstance. if they are willing to stop for a moment and simply listen to what their own soul has been trying to tell them. It is a simple realization, really. But simplicity is not the same as insignificance. The most profound truths are often the simplest ones, hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to finally see them. The realization is this: you are not a victim of the system. You are a participant in it. And because you are a participant, you have the power to change the terms of your participation. This may sound obvious when stated so plainly, but most people do not live as if it were true. They live as if they were passengers on a ship whose course was set long before they came aboard. They live as if the winds and the currents were beyond their control, as if their only choice was to hold on and hope for a smooth journey. They have forgotten that they have hands. They have forgotten that they can take the tiller. They have forgotten that they can sail their own ship. The fear that you will work until you are old and end up with nothing, that cold feeling that visits in the quiet hours, is not a prophecy. It is not a prediction of what must be. It is a warning. It is a signal from the deepest part of your being that the path you are on does not lead where you truly want to go. It is the universe, or fate, or your own highest self, call it what you will, tapping you gently on the shoulder and asking you to wake up from the dream of automatic living. Listen to it, honor it, but do not be paralyzed by it. That fear, properly understood, is not your enemy. It is your ally. It is the pain that tells you to remove your hand from the fire. It is the discomfort that prompts you to change position. It is the hunger that reminds you it is time to eat. Without it, you would simply drift onward, never knowing that you were drifting toward a cliff. Waking up does not mean quitting your job tomorrow. That would be foolish, and wisdom is never foolish. Waking up does not mean burning bridges or making dramatic gestures. The kind of awakening we are speaking of here is quieter than that. Deeper, more lasting. Waking up means beginning the inner work. It means taking 15 minutes tonight, before you sleep, when the house is quiet and the distractions have faded, to ask yourself the hard question. The question that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The question that Hill insisted was the starting point of all achievement. What is my definite purpose? What is the one thing I would build if I knew I could not fail? What is the contribution I want to make, the mark I want to leave, the problem I want to solve? Do not rush to answer. Do not expect the answer to come fully formed. Just ask the question. Hold it in your mind as you drift towards sleep. Let it work on you while you are not thinking about it. The question itself is a seed. Plant it tonight, and in the coming days and weeks, it will begin to sprout. Waking up also means starting to look at your daily work through new eyes. Instead of seeing your job as merely a source of income, a place to trade hours for dollars, begin to see it as a source of education, a laboratory, a training ground. What can you learn there that will serve your own purpose when the time comes? What skills are being developed in you that no one can take away? What problems do you observe that you might one day solve better than anyone else? What connections are you making with people who might become partners, customers, mentors, or friends on your own journey? Nothing is wasted when you view it through this lens. Every task, every meeting, every challenge becomes raw material for your future. You are no longer just working for a paycheck. You are gathering. You are preparing. You are building the foundation of something that will one day stand on its own. And waking up means beginning to plant seeds. Small seeds. Do not wait until you have a grand plan fully formed. Do not wait until conditions are perfect. Begin now, with whatever time and energy you can spare. An hour a week spent learning a new skill that your purpose will require. A conversation with someone who is already doing what you dream of doing. A small project on the side that brings you joy and creates a little value for someone else. A few pages written. A few people helped. A few problems solved. These small seeds, planted consistently over time, have a way of growing into things you cannot yet imagine. The oak tree does not appear overnight. It grows from an acorn, quietly, patiently, year after year. But one day, it is tall enough to provide shade. One day, it is strong enough to withstand storms. One day, it is unmistakably there, a living testament to all the small, quiet days that came before. This is not about getting rich quick. The world is full of schemes that promise that. and they almost always lead to disappointment. This is about something far more valuable. This is about reclaiming your life. This is about shifting from a state of mental sleep, where you simply react to whatever happens, to a state of creative awareness, where you are consciously building something that matters to you. This is about understanding deeply and finally that the greatest asset you will ever own is not in any bank vault. It is not in any stock portfolio. It is not in any retirement account. It is between your ears. It is your mind, your ability to think, to imagine, to persist, to learn, to adapt, to create. That asset, properly developed and focused, is capable of producing more abundance than any job ever could. Napoleon Hill wrote that thoughts are things, and they are. They are the most powerful things in the universe. Not thoughts as idle daydreams, not thoughts as wishful thinking, but thoughts held in the mind with clarity, backed by a burning desire, supported by a definite plan, and sustained by persistent effort. Such thoughts have the power to attract the people, the circumstances, and the opportunities needed to turn them into their physical equivalent. They become magnets. They become blueprints. They become the invisible scaffolding upon which visible achievements are built. Most people never use this power. They let their thoughts be the thoughts of others, whatever the television tells them, whatever the internet feeds them, whatever the people around them are thinking. They let their lives be the lives that others have planned for them. And at 65, they look back and wonder where it all went. They wonder why the years passed so quickly, why the dreams never materialized, why the cupboard is bare. But you have heard this now. The words have entered your awareness. The seed has been planted. You cannot unhear what has been spoken. And so the question is no longer whether you will end up with nothing. The question has changed. The question now is, what are you going to build, starting from this moment? Not tomorrow, not next year, not when you have more time or more money or more confidence. Now, today, in the quiet spaces of your existing life, with whatever resources you currently have, with whatever time you can set aside. The sun is setting on the old way of thinking, the way that said your security comes from someone else, the way that said your labor is just something to be sold, the way that said your future is determined by forces beyond your control. That sun is going down, and it will not rise again in the same place. And in the quiet of this moment, as the old light fades, a new possibility is born. The possibility that the rest of your life, whatever remains of it, whether many years or few, will be the best of your life. Not because you will finally have more money, not because you will finally be free of struggle, but because you will finally be living with purpose. You will finally be walking your own path. You will finally be building something that matters to you. And on that path, even if the road is long, even if the way is sometimes hard, the destination is never empty. Because the journey itself, lived with intention, fills you as you go. The building itself, done with love, becomes its own reward. And when you reach the end, whenever that may be, you will look back not with regret, but with a quiet satisfaction of having lived a life that was truly your own. So here you are, in the quiet of this moment. The words have been spoken, but their work has only just begun. Do not feel the need to rush out and change everything by morning. Real transformation does not happen in a frenzy. It happens in the stillness, when a single truth settles deep enough to become part of you. You have been reminded tonight of something you already knew, somewhere beneath the noise. That your time is sacred, that your mind is powerful, that a life lived on purpose is the only life worth living. The fear of reaching the end with empty hands, let it go. Let it transform into something else. Let it become the gentle pressure that turns your attention back to what matters. Back to the seeds only you can plant. Back to the path only you can walk. Whether you are young and just beginning to wonder, or further along and wondering if it is too late, it is never too late. The oak does not ask how many seasons remain. It simply grows. Thank you for being here, for listening with an open heart. Carry this with you now. Not as a burden, but as a quiet companion. Go gently, build wisely, and may your rest tonight be deep and peaceful.